Hey everyone, welcome back to another bite-sized, life-size edition of Spector Creative with me, your host, Scott Toy Guru Neitlich. And I wanted to make a video following up on a previous video I did about Christopher Cox, who's the CEO of Hasbro, the interview he did with Yahoo Finance, because it was really insightful for what is going on with the toy industry and especially the action figure part of that. So, the part I want to readdress or add to is him talking about how Hasbro has already been basically making, I forgot the term he used, like creative decisions to hold the line at the current SRP for action figures. The reason I want to bring this up is because all toy companies, not just Hasbro, but all the big ones tend to get a lot of, well, shit from us toy fans. Here's the part where I shill, right? For saying, they're cheaping out, they don't know anything about the product, et cetera, et cetera. So, what I think his interview sheds light on is the fact that, yes, he completely confirmed that Hasbro, in particular, has been making creative decisions to cost reduce toys. But the reason they are cost reducing toys is not what we all think. We all feel like, oh, it's to drive profits, it's to pay for his, golf lessons, it's because, giant corporations are greedy and want all of our money. When in fact, what his interview explains, again, and shines the light on, is that the cost reductions that Hasbro has been making the last 2 years has been to hold the line at the current SRP. And so what I mean by that, let's look at an example. All right. So I've got a Thor by Thor comparison. All right. So this is the 80th anniversary Thor, although it's got a different head on it. Don't worry about that for now because we're actually really looking at the body. So you will notice there is not only a lot of deco on the legs and arms, but there is what's called a wash, which means after you have the direct plastic, it is sprayed with another color, and this causes the figure to pop, if you will, as I noted in another video. Overspraying is very, very popular to add value to toy product. When you don't use overspray and you're just using the raw color of the plastic, it tends to look cheap. Example B. So here's the Avengers 60th Thor, the one that came with the Destroyer. All right. Actually, both heads came with this figure, but again, not important right now. We're really looking at things like the cape and the legs. So yeah, you can see this cape here does not have a wash. This cape does. It's not just darker plastic, but a secondary paint application is added in order to make it really look cool, look detailed. Another sort of issue is the legs, right? So the boots are, again, raw plastic, as opposed to these boots. You can see the color of the raw plastic underneath, but the actual boot has been decoed, not just with the black, but there's an overspray on it as well to give it that cooler look. All right, that's just one Thunder God example. I want to show you a couple others. So again, we can talk about this. So let's look at two Jolly Green Giants here. All right, so again, you got Drax and you got Hulk. So you can see Drax has an overspray on his face. You can especially see it around the eyes. But that overspray does not continue on the rest of his body. So his arms are just raw green plastic. His belt is raw gold plastic. His feet are raw purple plastic. So he has very little deco on him outside of his face. Hulk, on the other hand, you can see has that overwash over his entire body, which is why you see different shades of green, why you see darker, lighter. It makes things like the muscle veins pop more. And same thing with the purple of his pants. They're not just raw purple, they have an overspray on them. You can tell because if you look at the joint here, because this part is never painted, doesn't get the overspray. So you can usually use that as an indicator of whether or not your toy has an overspray is look at the joint in the leg or the arm to see whether or not it's colored. All right, so now that we've kind of established what I'm talking about, and actually one more example, because this is important too. And again, talking about what Hasbro has been deliberately doing to cost reduce the toys. I've used this example a lot in a still photo I have, but look at the difference in belts here, right? So Nick Fury not only has this whoops, hold on, this awesome wash, right, all over him. But hopefully it shows up on camera. The rivets on his on his belt are decoed. The straps on his belt are decoed. Versus if you look at something like this guy here, you can see, not only is the belt just raw plastic color, like the hands and the boots, but there's absolutely no deco on it. All right. So using those as examples, those are all tactics that Hasbro has had to take in order to maintain that $25 price point. I've mentioned this a lot in videos because I've been very suspicious of, I've made videos noting these cost reductions and pointing them out. But now we know, and I've put forth my theory that I believe it's because Hasbro needs to cost reduce. What most fans then keep saying is, oh, they're cost reducing to drive their profits. No. And that is the part, that's exactly what I want to address is, no, they're not cost reducing to drive their profits. They're cost reducing to keep the figures at the SRP they're at now. Believe me, the toy companies don't want these figures to be $25. So usually when prices go up, the toy company will increase the cost of the product to the wholesaler and then to the final, customer, you or me, or, whoever's buying it off shelf. That's like what we did when I was on DC Universe Classics. They started off, I think, at like $9.99 and then went up to $12.99, $14.99. I'm pretty sure by the time we were at like wave 17 or 18, it was $20. Masters of the Universe Classics was $20 for a long time. And then in 2013, we had to jump the price to $25 because we hadn't been bringing the price up each year. We were maintaining it. And suddenly it was 5 years later and the toy cost, a good chunk more to make. So instead of cost reducing the figure to a $20 figure, we raise the price to maintain quality. So that's the difference. Is traditionally when there's an increase in costs, whether it's labor or shipping. I mean, there's a million reasons why costs go up. Tariffs, the economy, inflation, attack from space monsters, Shazbot. Hate it when that happens. Usually you increase the price and maintain quality. What Hasbro has been doing is maintaining the price, not the quality, which is very different. And that's why it seems so weird to us. And that's why I've been pointing out a lot on this channel the past couple of years. When I see things like this, I'm like, man, it's like they're doing this deliberately. Like, why did they not paint his foot? And, what I've assumed was because these cost way more to make than we're basically being told. More or less what my theory is, and I'm usually right about this stuff. Sorry, haters out there, but a basic Marvel Legends, G.I. Joe Classified, Star Wars Black Series, Motu, Masterverse, whatever you want to say, your 6-inch figure with accessories, or 7-inch if you're Mattel, or McFarlane, is probably costing closer to $30, or what would be a $30 SRP. Whatever that X factory is, it's usually 1/4 the cost. So it's basically when, interpreting what Chris said, to reading the tea leaves, is that several years ago, it started costing $30, or, what would have been a $30 SRP to produce these figures. We're going to maintain a $25 SRP, and we're going to do that by removing things from the toy, such as deco, such as the Build-A-Figure piece. The fact that we've gotten, basically now we're getting 6-inch figures in Marvel Legends without a Build-A-Figure piece, or in lieu of a Build-A-Figure piece, giving us a very low-tooled, reusable accessory, like the Secret Wars shield or the upcoming comic book wave mini comic book, which is, just a book slug accessory with a different sticker on it. Yeah, I mean, it's great marketing gimmick, but it definitely takes away, I would say, value, if you will, from the figure. But I think what's the point of this video, what I'm trying to get at, is all of the frustration we've had seeing deco be reduced, accessories being reduced, Build-A-Figure pieces get reduced, has not been about lining the pockets of executives. It has been about holding the line and keeping these figures at $25. Really, to kind of end this, and I want the discussion that I would like to have in the comments is, would you buy a Marvel Legends, if you will, or a 6-inch figure, G.I. Joe Classified, whatever you want to call it, Jurassic Park, John Hammond collection, or Amber collection, do they still even make those? Would you buy those for $30? And I think for a lot of us, that's a big cutoff. I wasn't even sure how much I would be able to move to the $25 price point from 20. I know at 20, I used to buy doubles, and I don't buy doubles anymore, for the most part. So when they were $20, I usually had no problem buying one for, an X-Men shelf and one for kind of just my everyday box. So yeah. So basically, I'm glad Chris was able to post that because I can't talk about a lot of things for legal reasons, but he put a lot of numbers out there, and yeah, we've seen, reductions from Hasbro, but not for the reasons I think it's good to now understand why is they've been holding the line, and you know if tariffs or costs, whatever it is, do push figures to the $30 price point, basically, if we want to go back to having figures that look like this instead of this, are you willing to pay $5 more? Because that is why it's being reduced, is to maintain that lower price point. Personally, I'd rather have consistency. I may not buy as many figures, but I'd like them all to look the same. So I guess I'm in the boat that I'd rather pay the $30 than to see the figures cost reduced down, which is really interesting but understandable why this tactic was taken. All right, hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. Thanks for sharing. It's the best way to support this channel, and see you guys in the next video.